David, welcome to the How to Be a Redhead
Yeah,
podcast.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. So, a question we like to ask all of our guests who are redheads: what was it like for you personally growing up with red hair?
I think it was a unique experience, as I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
us can kind of resonate with.
Yes.
It's something that I know that I definitely had to grow into a little bit. I remember no one in my family has red hair, and so it was one of those things where my mom would get stopped at the grocery store by other redheads, and they would all, a redhead
Of
lady would be
course.
like, "Your hair is so beautiful," or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always just like, roll my eyes, so embarrassed, but over time, I think I got more comfortable with it. Kids at school stopped noticing it or caring about it so much. And now it's just really, I feel like a part of who I am. And I can't
Mm.
imagine not being a redhead. My wife tells me all the time, she's like, she doesn't even see it, but she's like, it would be so strange if I just had brown hair or something like that. And so I do love it now for what it is. And it's unique, but it's something that is kind of unique to me and obviously a few of us, but I really do have kind of lived into it and enjoy it now.
Wow. So you're the only redhead in your family.
Yeah, as far as we know, my like
Wow.
great 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 grandfather was nicknamed Red, but we don't have any color
Okay.
pictures of him, and so we
So you
think
don't
there's a good
know.
chance that he was a redhead. But other than that,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is just mostly brunette in my family, and so it was definitely
Wow.
a bit of a surprise. My dad talked about when I was born. He said when you're at the hospital, you have this idea of what your child's going to look like, and I popped out with a
Yeah.
full head of red hair, and he was like, that was not what he was expecting, and so
Oh
it
my
definitely was a
gosh.
bit of a surprise.
That is so cool. So when you were growing up, did you feel like were there any other redheads that you knew about in school, or was there anyone
Mm.
else around you that was a redhead?
Off the top of my head, I can think of two other kids that were redheads at school. But it was obviously in a school of a few hundred kids. We were definitely the minority, and so it was
Yeah.
not something that I was around a ton. And I was actually homeschooled until fifth grade, and so up until fifth grade, I don't know that I really knew any other people who were redheads. So it was like I said, kind of unique to me.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then how did you get into men's fashion content creation?
Yeah, I had a couple of friends. We were on a trip with them, and my friend's wife was really into fashion, but he was not at all. And he kind of
Okay.
knew that it was something that I enjoyed or just did a little bit more of as a hobby. And I was kind of walking him through a few different pieces at a store that we were shopping at that he could put together or things like that. And he told me, he was like, you need to do this on social media. I just put it on a very simple and low level that he could understand even as someone who didn't really care about fashion. And so they
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
encouraged me to do that. And I started out with a goal from them of posting on TikTok every single day for a year. And that was at the beginning of 2023. So about a year
Oh,
and a
Okay.
half ago.
wow.
And it just kind of took on a life of its own. And so it was really just through friends who were like encouraging me to do
You got
it,
to start
checking in
this.
with me every single day to make sure that I was still sticking to my goals and things like that. That ultimately just yeah, wanted to bring that to the table.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's
Posting
so
every
cool.
day is a commitment.
Yeah, I was really good for like the first 3 or 4 months, and then kind of fell off a little bit. But at that point,
Yeah.
it had started to take on a bit of a life of its own, and so some of the goals and stuff just shifted within that. As far as posting every day wasn't the goal, and it was like, how can I make this a sustainable part of my life that I can do for years to
Yeah.
come instead of
Mm.
just for one dedicated year?
So tell
Mm-hmm.
us, so you're in the store with your friend and you're inspired and then you did TikTok. But prior to that, do you feel like did your red hair have any emphasis on wanting to dress a certain way? Because it's just speaking as me, and I know I'm a female, but I love to kind of dress in a certain way to like enhance my hair or to
Hmm.
I don't know, just to make it look good. And I think sometimes redheads have to wear different things because of our bold hair. So I was wondering if being a redhead at all inspired you to enjoy fashion the way that you
Yeah,
do.
that's a good question. I don't know that I would say that it was what inspired it, but it definitely has impacted the way that I dress a little bit to some degree.
Mm,
Obviously, there are certain colors that I think I've avoided or gravitated towards a bit more
Mm-hmm.
because of how they just look, not only with my hair, but also just with my skin complexion. And so
Right.
it's definitely had an impact on it. As far as inspiring it, I'm not sure that it has done that quite
Yeah.
as much for me, but it definitely is something that is a conscious thought for me as I am putting outfits together or things like that. And I've actually gotten a number of messages from other guys or wives of redheaded guys being
Yeah.
like, man, this is so helpful
Yeah.
because dressing as a redhead can be a bit of a challenge. And they like seeing
Yeah.
different things that I do and applying it to their lives. And so I know that, like, with obviously, redheads aren't super well represented in the fashion space a
So
lot of the
true.
time. And so
It's
I
very
that was
true.
something that I think was a bit unexpected to me, was how many redheads that I would get to connect with through this whole thing, and then being like, man, I've been looking for someone who sort of looks like me to be able to find some inspiration. So that's been really fun.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I know I was sharing this with you before we started recording, but the reason we found you was because my husband loves your page, and I think he has red hair too, and he always feels like, I don't know, maybe he feels like I don't give him any input on what to wear. I'm
Yeah.
always like, wear whatever. But I think that he always wants to
Yeah.
take it upon himself. Out of the two of us, surprisingly, he's the shopper. I'm not. And
Yeah.
so he really likes to look good and feel good. And I think he was looking for some inspiration. And I think when he came across your page, you represented something that you represented maybe
You
who
can
he
connect
is.
with.
Yeah. And so
That's
he's really
awesome.
enjoyed that. And then, funny enough, Steph, I didn't even tell you, our cousin, who is like a strawberry blonde, but much like your coloring, David, but just maybe like just a little bit more like blondish strawberry. But our cousin
Yeah.
Ryan, Steph, follows him too.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? You saw that
I
on
saw it when
Instagram?
I
That's
went
so
on to go
funny.
follow him on How to Be a Redhead. I saw Ryan like also follows his page, and I was like, that's so funny. The two redhead men I know in our
Because he's a
family
redhead.
follow you,
Yeah.
David. Yeah.
That's so fun. That's super neat.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
I just
that.
love that you really are giving confidence to a lot of redhead guys, because
Hmm.
I feel like my husband always says that he feels like there's just not a lot of representation amongst redhead
Yeah.
men. I mean, like, we have, luckily in like probably the last decade, we have like a lot of redhead female celebrities who have become
Sure.
super popular. But in terms of
Yeah.
guys, I mean, there's not a lot of there's not a
Yeah.
ton of representation. I mean, you have Prince Harry, which is like
Ed
amazing.
Sheeran.
You
Yeah.
have Ed Sheeran, and you have like a bunch of just actors and stuff, but I don't feel like there's anyone. So I think people see your page and then they get inspired.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
funny you say that because, it's such a blanket, those couple of guys that are famous. I've gotten stopped and been told, you look like Prince Harry or you look like Ed Sheeran. And I'm like, I don't really look like either of them, but it's just the
Hair.
hair color. It's like all of a sudden that's the only association that people can make. And so it is
Yeah.
interesting. I think it's been awesome to see as, I imagine, a decade or so ago, a lot of what you would see in fashion or on models on websites or things like that was 6'5", blonde hair, blue eyes, guys like that. And
Hmm.
there has been a lot of progress in terms of representation for a lot of other people in
Yeah.
fashion. And so
Yeah.
now you do get a lot more variety, but a lot of that has shifted to people with darker skin complexions or dark hair, things like that. And so there still really isn't a ton on the redhead front. And I understand it to some degree because we are a bit of a smaller demographic. And so
Yeah.
if you put a redhead
Yeah.
on a website, it may not apply to a ton of people. But for folks like me and like us, it's a bit more of a challenge to find some of those, like, how would this actually look on me when you see it on the model or on somebody out in the wild. So
Yeah. And I love how simple a lot of your videos are, where you're just saying, okay, here are a couple pieces that then turn into a wardrobe. Because I think
hmm,
anyone really can get overwhelmed by everything out there on the internet, and it's so saturated, and
Yeah.
it can be, like I said, so overwhelming to know, like, okay, what pieces. And maybe for guys who follow you, maybe, like Josh, Adrian's husband, maybe, I'm not saying he feels overwhelmed, but maybe it's just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like that outfit looks so great, and then it's easy to replicate, and you just make it
Yeah.
really, really simple for your your followers.
That's funny you say that, Steph, because Josh wanted to make sure that I told you that you inspired him to get these white sneakers. I don't even know what they are, but he's like, tell him about the white sneakers. I honestly don't even know. But I think that you wore an outfit with like white sneakers. So then he bought white sneakers and now he's like so excited.
That's
So
awesome.
yes, I think the simplicity is so great because those white sneakers he can now wear with like so many different
With
pieces.
and yeah, and that brings us into, we had a question, like some styling questions.
Yeah.
If you could only own 5 pieces in your fashion collection, what are your must-haves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, the first thing that came to mind is a great pair of jeans, just because they're something that you can
Love
wear
jeans.
across a ton of different seasons. A lot of these are going to be kind of more of those like basics that you can buy once and style a bunch of different ways. But actually, a minimal white sneaker was one of those that I had listed there as well.
Mhm.
That is one of my kind of, I guess, staples on my page. People sometimes give me a bad time for it as well, but I love it. It's just one of those shoes
How do you
that I
keep them
can.
clean?
What's that?
Do you have a secret on how to keep white sneakers clean? Mine are always completely dirty, like
I do
after
actually.
one wear.
I
Yeah.
use a Mr. Clean magic eraser
You do.
that you
Yeah.
would use for like around the house
Oh.
or cleaning anything like that. And if you just take it, especially like obviously if you have a canvas sneaker like a Converse or something like that, it doesn't work on that. But anything that's like rubber or leather material, if you just get it a little bit wet and scrub it, it cleans them up so easily, so nicely, and they look like really, really good. And so for a leather or rubber, more rubber type sneaker, the magic eraser is magic. It works so well. And then
What a good
something that
tip.
is canvas or like an athletic shoe or something like that, I actually just throw them in the washing machine, and that works
Oh.
really well as well. And so
Yeah.
I have a pair that I post really frequently. That's probably my favorite pair of shoes that I've had for like 2.5 or 3 years and worn a lot, and they still look really good. And so I
Wow.
think not letting them get super dirty and cleaning them fairly regularly, but I'm not one of those people who like cleans them every single time I get home and is crazy about it. But that magic eraser goes a long ways.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
I love
sorry.
a
So for
magic
your 5
eraser.
pieces, it was a white sneaker,
Jeans,
Yes.
jeans.
Okay.
white sneaker.
Great pair of jeans, white sneaker, a really great just white t-shirt because you can layer it so many different ways,
Oh.
Okay.
things like that. A lightweight shirt jacket. I love a shirt jacket. You can layer it, roll the sleeves if it's a little bit warmer, layer it up with like a sweater or something like that. Just a super versatile piece. And then an Oxford button-down shirt because it's a great way. If you pair it with those
Yeah.
jeans, maybe with the shirt jacket, you can dress it up a little bit, dress it down a little bit. Just anything that's going to give you a lot of variety, super versatile. Those 5 pieces can be worn so many different ways. They all should be really comfortable for a guy who maybe doesn't care as much about their style and isn't willing to be uncomfortable to look good. And so they're just super versatile. Those are the kind of pieces that I would invest a little bit more in for a bit better quality piece because they're kind of the basics, the building blocks for what could be a really like versatile wardrobe.
Yeah. No, I love that. And can you share any tips on finding affordable accessories that elevate your look? I think men
Watches.
want to shy away from accessories, I think.
Totally. And I will say I'm not like the biggest accessory guy, but I do have a few. So like obviously Amazon is a great resource for that. I just bought like
Love
a
Amazon.
belt for like $30 that's really, really similar to one that I have that's $100. And I got one off Amazon and one off of another site. And so obviously that's a great place to start. One thing that I was thinking about when I was reading this question was I think education for accessories is super important. So one accessory that I am never, ever, ever without is a watch. I wear one every single day. And you can spend a bunch of money on a watch that isn't very nice, like a kind of more of a fashion watch or something like that, from a brand that just has really, really good marketing. Or you could buy a really nice watch that isn't very expensive because it's from a good brand like Seiko or Orient. Those are 2 watch brands that I really, really love. And they make really, really high quality watches, but they don't have to break the bank. And so there is a piece of it where the more you can kind of learn and make good, smart purchases instead of just buying that Instagram ad that comes through is a great way to make sure you're getting good quality, but still relatively affordable.
Right. And then would you consider a watch jewelry? because
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I think for guys, probably the three main things that I see guys wearing are a watch, maybe like a simple chain or necklace, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously some rings and things like that. Occasionally, like a simple bracelet or something like that. But definitely, I would say a watch is a piece of jewelry for me. It's
Yeah.
one, like I said, it's one of those things that I never leave the house without. And I think in the age of like Apple Watches, smartwatches, Garmin's, having a nice analog watch that's stainless
Yeah.
steel or gold or something like that is a great, easy way just to stand out a bit and to look a
Yeah.
little bit more polished, a little bit more put together, a little bit more thoughtful, and it really can
Mm-hmm.
elevate your look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even own a watch.
I don't either. I don't either, but I feel like it is like
Yeah.
such a nice accessory when you see someone who has it.
It is. The only thing I will say, I do have a pet, it's not a pet peeve. The Apple Watch is great, but I think people can do without the Apple Watch when they're wearing, like, if they're at a wedding and they're wearing a nice dress. I
I
think they
agree
can,
with you.
I
I agree
personally
with you.
think
It's
that
kind of
they,
like it's too athletic almost.
Yep.
yeah, I think that they should replace it with a watch, David, that I don't know, like that actual just tells
Yep.
time.
I totally agree. And my wife and I are actually wedding photographers as
I was going
well.
to
And so
ask. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, we
So
saw.
Yeah.
that's our kind of main business. And the number of times that we'll ask somebody if they want to remove their Apple Watch because it's just
No
showing right
way.
in
Okay.
the front. And, but then what happens a lot of the times is they've got like a nice solid tan line
Tan.
all the way around. And so you
Yeah.
got to kind of pick your battles. But I always encourage guys, if you're exercising, wear an Apple Watch, wear a smartwatch, something that's going to track that if that's important to you.
Hmm.
If you're not, especially if you're going to be going out on a date night or something like that, swap it for something a little bit nicer, just because also, like, there's nothing worse than being in a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden they're looking at their wrist because they have a
Ah,
message or something like that that's come in. And so it's
Yeah.
just a way to
yeah.
remove that. There's a little bit of elegance and simplicity that comes with
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
it's also just fun. Like I said, guys don't have quite as many accessories to work with, and so we may as well take the ones that we do have a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law just got my son, he's 3.5, a watch. And I think someone in his class had a watch. So then he was talking about it, but then he doesn't quite understand it because my husband and I don't wear a watch. So we put it on
Okay.
his wrist and he's like, well, you guys aren't wearing one. And we're like, no, we don't wear watches. So then he's like, well, why am I going to wear one? But we just want him to start, like understanding what time is. But I find that funny. And then that was a
Totally.
conversation with my husband and I, because my husband has like 3 watches in a dresser that I'm looking at right now, but he hasn't worn them in like 15 years. I would love to just get rid of them, but he
Yeah.
wants to keep them.
Just in case he needs to wear it one day.
Like he
Yeah.
would never even wear it. And they're so from like, like they're just from like 15 years ago. They're like
Sure.
big and not really
Maybe they'll come
Sure.
back
pleasantly.
into style. I was thinking of
Maybe,
I was
maybe.
thinking too when you think about style, right now, and I'm loving it, is everything's
Baggy
like
jeans.
baggy and like, that 90s like grunge almost is coming back. And I loved those days in the 90s. So I've been like loving my baggier jeans. And how do you feel like that when trends happen like that, how it kind of translates into men's style? How do you feel about that?
Mm.
Totally. I I kind of try to toe the middle line a little bit more. I think that especially for a lot of guys, I think there are two kind of camps, and the camp that I have really I feel like positioned myself in that I feel a little bit more passionately about is for the more normal or everyday guy. And
Mm,
obviously if I can find photos of myself from a couple of years ago where I was wearing really really skinny jeans, and
yeah.
I think that I look back on that and I'm like, I probably could have done without that. And so while now the trend has pivoted the other way to be a lot more
Yeah.
baggy,
Yeah.
I kind of try to take the mindset of what am I going to look back on 10 years from now and not like regret. And so I
Right.
think for
Yeah.
Right.
most
Yeah.
guys who
I
really
love that.
don't care about fashion too much or just want to look good, but they're not going to be, scouring the runway shows or anything like that, I think going for more of that middle of the road approach is often good. And so I really find myself, I've definitely, like I said, my jeans are much looser than they were 4 or 5 years ago. but I still wouldn't say that I wear aggressively baggy jeans or super oversized things.
Right.
And so if you're a guy who just wants to look stylish, I think having that middle of the road approach, really thinking about what just fits my body well, what flatters me and makes me look sharp,
Mm-hmm.
what do I feel comfortable in, is the most
Mm-hmm.
important thought. If you go into that and you're like, all right, I've got my basics, I've got my essentials dialed, and I enjoy fashion a lot, it's something that I see as a hobby or that I want to mess around with a bit more, then I'm all about having fun with some of those other pieces. And so
Yeah.
maybe it's surrounding an outfit that has a few of the basics that fit you really well and you're comfortable with a more aggressively baggy pair of jeans. And that's fun for you to wear. It makes you feel confident, it makes you feel different, like you stand out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's absolutely awesome. I think for the majority of guys, if you just are constantly trend hopping, there's going to be a lot of things that don't fit your body or proportions properly, that maybe don't look the best on you that they should, but you're just kind of buying into all those things. And then you're obviously going to be purchasing a lot of clothes and things like that. And so if it's not something that's like a hobby or something that you really enjoy, I think sticking with those higher quality, the basics that really fit you well and just look great, that can help translate across, at the office, on a date night,
Mm-hmm.
when you're out just running errands, things like that. Whereas some of those more trendy pieces tend a bit more casual. And so if it's something that's fun for you, then absolutely go for it. If it's not, then I think, yeah, sticking with those elevated basics is never something that you can go wrong with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
that's a really
agree.
great tip. And I see, in your bio that I love this because Stephanie and I are the same, but married and thriving. I love that you said that. And
Woo!
you also posted a TikTok with two photos of you and your wife taken 8 years apart. And we love that.
Yeah.
We said that you have a serious glow up in your hair and style department. And one of the commentators said, "Ding, does she have any stock pics? I trust her as an investor." So tell us more about your style journey that happened between those two photos, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of guys who are listening can understand,
Relate.
and definitely relate.
Yeah. That was my favorite comment. I thought it was so funny. I was dying
Yeah.
laughing when I saw that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the comments on the internet are brutal and sometimes
I
they're
know.
hilarious and you
They're
just have to
so hilarious.
Yeah.
sift through the
Yeah.
bad for the good. But as far as the glow up per se, I think it's been kind of a holistic thing for me. I always, since I was very little, wanted to look cool, have cool things. I remember I was a slightly chubby, 8-year-old kid who thought I was going to be a cornerback in the NFL. And so I had my eye black and things like that. And in
Love it.
hindsight, I looked really silly, but at the time I thought it was cool. And so that's probably been a consistent theme throughout my life is
Mm,
trying to fit in a bit and things like that. But I think as I've leaned into more of who I am over the past handful of years, I think it's given me a lot more confidence just to wear what I like, wear what makes me
Yeah.
feel good, wear what, like I said, kind of fits my body well. And also a lot of it has just come with learning. I don't have
mm,
any fashion education or anything like that. And so it's just been a process of trying different things, scouring the internet from other content creators like me to increase my knowledge and things like that. And over time, I think it's really developed. Like you said, that was an 8-year difference. And so
mm,
there were a lot of iterations of myself throughout that 8-year cycle of
mm.
trying different things. And sometimes they were probably good and sometimes they probably weren't. And like I said, my mindset a lot of the times is, what will I look back on in 10 years and not regret? And I think back
Yeah.
through that 8-year cycle, and there are definitely some things that
Yeah,
I regret
regret.
in there. And
Yeah.
so I'm definitely not perfect at taking my own advice. But I think as I get older, I just am leaning in more towards who I am as a person and hopefully being more and more confident in that, and trusting my instincts, trusting my knowledge, and just uh, developing that. And yeah, it's just, there is a fun part of fashion that is involved with trial and error, that you do just have to try a number of things to see, what do
Mm,
I like, what suits me well, what do other people think looks good on me, because that's always a part of your
yeah.
style, is how is it being perceived by
Mm-hmm.
other people. And it kind of took me from that place to another aspect of that was obviously my hair. And
Yeah.
that was thanks to the not so kind people of TikTok. I had that same hairstyle up until like a year and a half ago, and I started posting on TikTok and I got crushed for it all the time. And I know, it's horrible. It really was.
Oh my
But
God.
and at first it messed with me, and then I was like, whatever, I really don't care.
Yeah. No, they
But
make comments about
Yeah.
us all the time. I could care less.
yes,
Yeah. We don't, yeah.
but I
Whatever.
had
We even bat
wanted
an eye.
to kind of change up my hair for a while, and so I went into the barber and just got a completely different cut, and I was like thrilled with it. And
Yeah.
so even taking feedback from people, whether it's meant to be kind or not, I think never hurts. And so
Hmm.
yeah, it definitely, like I said, it's a process over the course of almost a decade, but hopefully you just continue to put in work to be the type of person that you want to be.
Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care, merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com. And you had mentioned that there are some colors, you mentioned it before, that you really do gravitate to having red hair. And I was wondering what those colors are.
Yeah, so I would say that my two most worn colors would be blue, particularly like navy. I,
Okay.
I really just like it. And then
I love navy
green
too.
would be the other one. And my wife told me that I look good in green. And so
Yeah.
then I just started buying everything in
Oh.
green because, that's just like how, I think that's how
Yeah.
the male brain works is you get one compliment and you're like, I'm doubling down on this for the rest of my life.
That is so true. I feel like I tell Josh one thing and then he buys like he buys it. I'm like, oh, those jeans look really nice on you, and then he buys them like four of
Yeah,
them in different colors. And I'm
Four
like,
different colors.
exactly. I am
yeah.
absolutely guilty of that. And then the other thing is, I actually really do like wearing white as well. Sometimes I
I
feel
love
like,
white too. I'm wearing
yeah,
white right now.
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like it looks better on me in the summer when I have a bit more color in my skin than in the dead of winter when I'm just like totally pale. But I think white can look really great as well. I love like
Yeah.
Stephanie, the contrast with like your hair and the shirt. It looks great, and so it is.
I love white. I don't love an off-white. I've tried off-white.
I
I think it
agree.
clashes with my skin color.
Yeah.
But I do know we follow and have worked with so many redheads that I see wear ivory. And I think it just really comes down to your hair color
Yeah.
and then your skin complexion.
Totally. I agree. When I wear like a off-white is okay, but for me, but if I go anything past that into like a true like beige or cream, a lot of the times it just like
It just
washes me
washes you out.
completely out.
Yeah.
And I just am like one blob. And so,
Yeah.
but a nice crisp white, I do really enjoy.
I agree. I actually just went through my closet a couple weeks ago and I had a Madewell shirt that I loved was beige. And then I put it on and I was like, I think it washes me out. So I tossed it. And then I agree. I love a stark white. It's just so hard to keep white clean. Like
I agree with that.
I also have to be very strategic. I have two little ones and I cannot wear a white shirt with them. So like I went on a girls trip last weekend and I packed my new white shirt because I was like, I know
This
that
is the
I'm not going to
opportunity.
get any greasy little like 1-year-old drooly hands on my shirt. But even when I go out, I just feel I think I've developed. I mean, I think I've had now like 5 or 6 shirts that just get stains from just being out like at a restaurant.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to find like a few of your favorite t-shirts too. I think t-shirt quality is like Adrian and I love a good t-shirt. Do you feel like as a guy like t-shirts are so hard? You either get really, really good quality ones like or it could be a really big fail.
I totally agree. And I think that within that, fit is obviously a real challenge as well. And I think a lot of guys wear shirts that are too small or too big. And sometimes there's not a lot of in between. And I think, with the oversized phenomenon that's happening right now, I do think the oversized look is really cool. And especially t-shirts, like in the summer, I love a big like flowy t-shirt that lets a lot of air in, things like that. But there is something about just like a t-shirt that just fits, and it is like it really is flattering for a guy's physique. And as far as like an outfit that looks good on literally any guy is a good fitting t-shirt and a good pair of jeans. And so if you can really nail those two things, One of my favorite places right now for both of those actually is a brand called
Oh.
Buck Mason.
Oh,
Um,
Josh
Oh my
Josh just
God.
bought from Buck Mason. Did you
yes,
So
and
post
not
so
did you
surprised.
post about it? Because he probably he
I
was just
I'm
telling me
sure I
about it.
have.
I just heard about them through like Google or something, and I saw
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they do have men and
I just saw a
women's.
package arrive to our house the other day, Buck Mason on it.
That is
Yeah.
so funny.
We were just in New York and they have like 4 Buck Mason men's stores, but they also have a Buck Mason women's store. And so
Oh.
I finally got my wife
Oh,
in to like try some of it out, and she is totally hooked now too. And so a lot of their
wow! I'm
stuff
gonna
is
have to
made in
try
the
it.
United States. The
Mm.
Love.
quality is awesome. It has this like kind of refined, rugged California vibe, and
Cool.
I've been obsessed with their pieces. And so I think as far as like t-shirts go, they're really really awesome. They have a bunch of different like weights and things like that I think it's a great place to check out. But ultimately, there is a piece of it that it is different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Different things that fit
Yeah.
me great might not fit somebody else just based on proportions. And so, like I said, there is an element of
Yeah.
trial and error that's always going to be involved.
And do you,
Yeah, I wanted to. Oh, sorry,
I
Aiden,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say, if maybe this is your question. We do this quite often, David, where we have the same question.
No,
Do-
mine's a random
oh,
question.
I feel like you're going to want to know. Did you help your wife get dressed too? Like, do you give her suggestions, or are you just like, I just know about men stuff?
And
Because
she
women
doesn't
is
want
a
your
whole other
advice.
animal.
Yeah.
That is a great question. My wife naturally is pretty stylish. She enjoys it, probably not to the level that I do, but she naturally like definitely loves it. Madewell is actually her
Oh
go-to
yeah,
store.
I
If I could
love
my
just like,
shirt,
Madewell.
my shirt
you
is made
know,
well. Yeah.
yep, I could just drop her off in there like 3 or 4 times a year, and she could just keep doing whatever they've got
Yeah.
going. But
Yeah. There's
occasionally,
classic pieces.
yep,
Classic
exactly,
pieces. Yeah.
exactly. Occasionally, she will ask me, to put together an outfit for her or something like that. I actually love women's style. Like, I think a lot of it is
Mm,
so cool, and I take a ton of outfit inspiration
inspiration.
from women because they just are so stylish. There's something about like the way that women seem to pair colors and things like that a lot of men just don't
Mm-hmm.
have quite that same knack for it. And so I actually have a series on TikTok that I probably need to bring back. I haven't made one in a while, of taking a woman's outfit and making it work for a guy, and kind of mix and
Oh,
Oh,
matching some of the
cool.
that's
pieces and
cool.
stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so I would say that I don't know that I help her as much. Occasionally I'll
Mm,
pick out an outfit or something, but if she has an idea or wants to bounce something off me, it's definitely kind of a shared interest, a shared hobby. And so
yeah.
we do talk about it a little bit.
I love that. I was gonna say, so my husband, he kind of sticks to his same palette. He likes like grays and blues, and I'm
Yeah.
always like, oh, he doesn't want to wear ever like a black T-shirt,
No,
even though
you
I
just
did
got
buy him
him
a
one.
black
It looks
T-shirt.
nice on him. He
I
should keep
know, I know.
wearing it.
He's
I kept complimenting
right.
him, so he felt good about it.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then if he gets the compliments, and as we said, then he'll
Yep.
start wearing it. But I thought it was so funny. We went to Barcelona. I guess it was 2 summers ago, and I love. One of the amazing things about traveling is getting
Oh
inspiration
yeah.
from fashion,
I
right? Like
know.
I sometimes keep a sticky note, and I did on this trip on like what I was really loving on seeing from other people just walking around or being out.
Yep.
And at the end, I was like, Brian, you know what I'm realizing? Your shorts are too frumpy. I know the baggy look is in, but his shorts were way too like close to his knee, like a little
Yep.
bit above the knee. And then you see all these people in Barcelona wearing these,
Steph, they
I
do
think it's
wear tighter
European.
things though. They wear like Speedos on
Well,
the beach.
they wear higher up
Yeah.
shorts and shorter
Yeah.
shorts. So then when we got back home, he ended up buying a few, I think from like the Gap or something, that were just a little bit shorter, not
Yeah.
like super short, but
Sure.
it does make them not look so frumpy with
Yeah.
like the shorter shorts. So I don't know, do you feel like length is very important when it comes to guys, especially with shorts for
Oh,
summer?
oh yeah, hugely
Yeah.
important. I think that I feel like that, and I say this, and this is how fashion works. It's so cyclical, but there are
It is.
a ton of guys are now going back to the long, loose, baggy shorts. But again, it's one of those things that I'm like,
Yeah.
if you are into fashion, if it's something that you love, it, I don't,
Explore it.
my personal opinion is that a 11-inch inseam pair of jean shorts doesn't actually look good. It doesn't flatter anybody's body. It doesn't really look good
Yeah.
on anybody. It's just like in, and it's stylish. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
why it looks cool.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think things that fit your body and are more flattering are what actually looks good on people. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it's what's the most stylish or things like that. But I would say for most guys, if you're a bit shorter, a 5 inch inseam, or that's kind of the
Yeah.
most like flirty length, I guess, if you were a guy who just,
Yeah.
wanted to show off your muscular legs or whatever. But I usually gravitate to a 7 inch inseam, or for guys that maybe aren't comfortable showing off quite that much thigh, I would say a 9 inch inseam is about as long as I would go for a pair of shorts.
Mm.
But those are going to be the lengths that I think are the most flattering for most guys. They're going to stop above the knee so that it doesn't make your legs look shorter or anything like that. And so
Mm.
those, I will say, shortening up those shorts, getting rid of the extra volume, the cargo pockets, things like that is always going to make
Yeah.
those summer looks a little bit more smart and make you look nice and sharp.
And what
Yeah. And
what about the use of a tailor? Do you have a
I
do you,
was just gonna say,
I
ask
knew it. I
that.
knew you were. I knew
Great
you were.
question.
But I had to get Josh into doing a tailor because he
I love my
yeah, it's
tailor.
just like I feel like he loves the fit in a pair of jeans, but then they're long. So I'm like,
Yeah.
great, tailor. And some of his all of his favorite pants have been tailored. So I was wondering if you
Yeah.
have a tailor.
Totally. I live in a bit of a smaller town,
Okay.
and the tailoring
David,
scene is
where are you?
Idaho.
I'm in Boise, Idaho.
Idaho. Okay.
And so not exactly the fashion capital of the world, but it's
Yeah.
so the tailoring scene is not the best here. I won't lie, but I would say there's a couple of things on the tailoring front. Obviously, fit is massively important across men's and women's clothing. It really changes the way
Mm-hmm.
that the outfit presents itself, what it's communicating, all of that. Um, with menswear. So if you're going to buy a suit, a pair of nice trousers, things like that, fit is unbelievably important and
Mm.
incredibly complex. And so even for someone like me, I wouldn't consider myself a menswear expert. I really gravitate more towards the casual side of things. Um, Tailors who do that for a living are going to know how that fabric is supposed to drape, how it's supposed to fit,
Mm-hmm.
all of that kind of stuff. And so getting a suit fitted for you, whether
Yeah.
it's getting one made to measure or getting an off
Couldn't
the
agree
rack
more.
suit and having it fit to your body
Yeah.
is wildly important. As far
Yeah.
as casual clothing goes, I think it's equally important. There are different ways that I think you can go about that. Obviously, number one, take your pair of jeans, pair of pants to a tailor, have them fit it that way. Another way that I think you can accomplish that is like the pair of jeans I'm wearing right now. They're a bit too long, but I have them rolled. And so
Right.
by making like having a cuff, it then makes them hit at the proper length for me instead of billowing over the top of my pants being super long.
Yeah.
And then the last one, actually, I'm going to plug Buck Mason again, but then also Uniqlo. There are a lot of brands.
Love Uniqlo.
Yes, and there are a lot of brands that you can actually order clothing with the hem taken up. And so Buck Mason does free hemming. Uniqlo actually does free
Oh
hemming, and a lot of
wow.
people don't know that. But you
No.
can go
No,
on
I
their
didn't know
website
that.
and order a pair of pants, and then have the inseam set to the length that you want, whether it's a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. And so if you kind of know your measurements, you can actually do
Wow.
some of that in the ordering process as well, which I think is a
Yeah.
bit of an underrated thing that you can do. But
Yeah.
it does help to really nail that fit, and it makes a huge difference
Mm-hmm.
in what the garment looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And
Uniqlo, I did want to mention Uniqlo has a built-in bra, like tank tops and shirts. Oh my gosh, they
My
are
the
like
best.
the
my wife
best.
has like 5 of those. It's all she wears
So
in
do
the
I.
summer. Yeah,
So do I. I
yeah.
have like 5 different ones. I need
She's
to
got
buy
like
more
the
because
white, the gray, the blue stripe, like every variation. Wherever we
yeah,
go there, she's like buying more.
and they're just so great because you don't need to wear a bra and you don't need to show a bra strap, and especially in the summer, like the less clothing the better with the heat. So, oh my gosh, I'm a huge Uniqlo
And
fan.
they're like
We
15 bucks, like, which is great
yeah,
too. So
yeah, exactly. And we wanted to ask about your grooming products because it's something
Mhm.
that how to be a redhead. Where we never really did a lot of men's content until about a year
sure,
ago, and we're slowly doing more and more and more, and we're testing men's grooming products.
that's
We're
awesome.
working on coming out with our own line eventually, and it's something that we know our audience want. So we wanted to ask, though, you personally, what do you use for some of your grooming products?
Yeah. Well, first off, I am excited to hear that because obviously my answer is going to reveal there's not a lot out there for redheaded men. The
Yeah.
number one thing for me is skincare, daily SPF. Like that is like
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Oh
we're
my
all
God.
fair. A
Yes.
lot of us redheads are fair skinned, and
Hmm.
keeping that skin healthy, not getting sunburnt as often as possible. So that is like the number one thing. I actually get mine from Trader Joe's.
Oh,
It's
I've
like a
tried that one.
it's like a super goop dupe,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
amazing. I hate lotion. It's just like it gives me the ick. But that stuff is like really light, and I wear that every single day. As far as other grooming stuff, I probably am not the expert. I use the shampoo and conditioner that my wife brings home from
Love that.
Costco,
Love that.
but
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's great stuff. And then I just use like a matte pomade in my hair for like
Mm.
my styling. It doesn't leave my hair like looking wet. It's that kind of like matte texture, but it has a really nice hold. I don't know if it's specifically a redhead thing, but my
Mm.
hair is really fine and really straight. And so it
Oh.
needs a little bit of texture added into it, and that
Yeah.
seems to work really well for me. I imagine there are like a lot of redheads that also have curly hair, and so it's
Yeah.
probably not universal, but for me that's what has worked.
And
So
I don't know if you saw the episode, but when we were on Shark Tank, we were talking about men because Mark Cuban, who ended up investing in us, was talking about the importance of targeting redhead men. And
yeah.
we were talking about how we know that that's important. And I brought up my husband and I said, he has really bad ingrown hairs. And so I was
Mm.
made this gross face, like he has really bad ingrown hairs.
I
And
aired it.
after we had taped, obviously we're in there for so long, but it's only cut down to 12 minutes. And they put it in there. They put it in there.
Oh no.
And so I called him out on national TV about his ingrown hairs. And so now, obviously part of our grooming kit will be for razor bumps and that sort of thing that men and women
Sure.
who are redheads have to deal with. But in that same topic, do you struggle with ingrown hairs, and what does your shaving process look like?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't know that that's something that I have had a ton of, but I will say I used to just use just like a shaving cream and shave, and that was like
Mm.
all that I ever did. And I did have a bit more irritation.
Mm.
And then I actually got this shave oil from American Crew,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
started
Yeah.
putting like hot water on my face and then rubbing the shave oil on,
Okay.
and I have noticed
Oh.
a huge difference in the amount of irritation. I do that, and then I still put the shaving cream over the top of that.
Okay. You
But
still use
having
that one.
that as like the base layer
Yeah.
for when I'm shaving has made a massive difference, and it's just like such a more comfortable shave. I feel like I don't have irritation and stuff after I'm done, and
Mm.
so thank you for reminding me of that because that has been actually a great addition to kind of my skincare and shaving routine.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, because you don't look like you have very sensitive skin just from looking. I know it's hard to see through basically the zoom
Yeah.
Yeah.
lens, but it looks like you have a pretty good control over your skin.
Yeah, I actually think as far as redhead, my skin is a little bit different than I think some others that I see.
Mm.
I have a ton of freckles. I've always attributed
Same.
it to, unfortunately, probably a lot of sun damage because I played
Same.
I played golf from when I was probably 10 all the way through. I played golf in college
Oh,
as well.
wow.
And
Oh, wow.
so
So
I
that's so much
tried to wear
sun.
sunscreen a lot,
Of
but
Yeah.
course.
inevitably, like, I was outside probably 6 to 8 hours a day all summer long and then throughout the school year as well. And so
Wow.
I definitely take on a tan a bit more. I used to be like really, really tan when I was outside all the time,
Yeah.
even though I never really got burnt. And so I've always attributed a little bit of the difference in my skin to just all that time in the sun. But I also think there is a little bit of like a complexion difference for me that maybe changes a little bit of how my skin reacts to
Mm.
things, but I'm not
Yeah.
totally sure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, it seems like you're doing great. I was wondering too when we were talking about fashion. I was laughing because my husband was saying that we live in such a warm place now, but he was saying that his wardrobe is very winter. Like we love,
Mm,
and I just love dressing for fall and
Love.
winter. There's
yeah.
something about those jackets and like the hats, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I know I just so fun. It's so fun to dress. And I was wondering what your favorite season is to dress for.
Yeah, we live in Boise is four seasons, and pretty much as true of four seasons as you can get. We have 100 degrees in the summer, we have snow and freezing temperatures in the winter, and so we get a little bit of everything. I
I
would
love that
say,
though.
Yeah.
yeah, it's really neat. It's probably less neat in like March when it's still 40 degrees and we're still getting snow, but it's a great place to live. And I would say for me, it's probably fall and spring, kind of a tie. If I had to
Yeah.
give the nod, it would probably be fall, which I know is probably the basic answer. But in the winter, I feel like it just is like coats
I
and
know.
survival and
Yeah.
bundle up and stay warm.
Survival.
Fall and
Yeah.
spring give you a lot of options as far as, you can layer with a sweater and a jacket, or you can,
Yeah.
there's just so much variety that comes with that kind of 50 to 60-degree temperature range that I think is really, really fun.
Mm.
And then summer does have a soft spot for me. I think it gets a bad rap, but it is. I don't think it's as bad to dress for as people make it out to be. But fall and spring, I think, give you the most variety, the most options, which is probably my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Fall for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So finally, what advice do you give listeners who are looking to improve their personal style and
Hmm.
make more confident fashion choices?
yeah. I think it kind of ties back to a lot of what we've talked about throughout the episode, but it's kind of a two sides to the same coin.
Mm.
Invest in those classic and high quality pieces that you're going to be able to wear season after season, that make you feel good, that make you look great. But then also don't be afraid to try new things. And I think that's
Hmm.
like the
Yeah.
blend of always improving your style, always upgrading. Is if you just stay in the things that you're always comfortable with, as much as those are the areas that probably a lot of your wardrobe should be, then you'll never go anywhere. And so trying those new things, maybe dabbling in a trend here or there that you think fits within your personal style, can really help you progress and look better as the years go along, and as you just get more comfortable and more confident in your own personal style.
Oh, that's so great. And we're so happy that you
Yeah.
listened to your friend and started your page, I
I
mean, good
know.
thing you did because you've inspired a lot of people. So we're so excited to see what's next for you and to keep following you. So just thank you so much for your time and for coming on and talking with us.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
David.
And I'm so excited to try the Redhead specific men's products as
We
well.
might have you just testing some of our stuff. Like, let us know what you
I,
Yeah.
think.
I would love that. That would be amazing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, ladies.